Kurt Busch might be returning to Chip Ganassi Racing in 2022, and Roger Penske might have confirmed that Brad Keselowski is leaving Team Penske. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got a lot of NASCAR stories to discuss today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start off all the sponsors and paint scheme news. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. The first paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Ryan Ellis's 2021 Good Sam scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the Xfinity Series. Great paint scheme, my honest opinion. It's great to see a Good Sam, and Marcus Munoz is continuing to work with Ryan Ellis. Great to see this. I also like the paint scheme as well. The colors look very, very good, and I'm definitely looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack at Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Ty Majeski's 2021 Simcraft scheme that we are going to see in the Truck Series race this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Really like this paint scheme a lot. The black looks very, very well. You also get some of the Thor Sport colors we kind of see as well. The number, of course, also looks really, really great as well. I'm definitely looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack this weekend. I'm definitely looking forward to see it. Like this paint scheme a lot. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Stephen Parsons' 2021 Sokol scheme that we'll see in the Xfinity Series this weekend here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It looks very similar to Brett Moffitt's scheme, but I was a big fan of that paint scheme too. I really like the colors a lot. You get the whitish grayish color on the car, and the gradient also looks really, really cool. Great to see that Sokol is sponsoring another team, and great to see that they're stepping up to plate and sponsoring more drivers this year. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Brett Holmes' 2020 Southern States paint scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the Truck Series. Really like this paint scheme a lot. It's really awesome to see that Brett Holmes also back at the trucks. He's ran a couple times this year. I really like this paint scheme a lot. Definitely look forward to see this one out on the racetrack this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The next paint scheme we're going to go ahead and take a look at is Brad Moffitt's 2020 Good Sam scheme that we'll see in the Xfinity Series here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Once again, I really like this paint scheme a lot. It looks very, very good. And again, really good to see that Marcus Munoz is continuing to sponsor smaller teams. And this paint scheme also gives him Patriot. It feels well. They did a very solid job on this paint scheme, in my honest opinion. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Timmy L's 2021 Patriotic scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the Truck Series race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I like this a lot. Yes, you do have the yellow number of the car, which really doesn't perfectly match, in my honest opinion, but you get the red, white, and blue, and in my opinion, this is one of my favorite Patriotic schemes that I've seen so far this year. Hopefully it can do very, very well this weekend, and hopefully it will help Timmy Hill have a very strong run this weekend in the NASCAR Truck Series. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Chris Rice's 2020 FMB scheme that we are going to see this weekend in the Truck Series. Really like this paint scheme a lot. You get the white, red, and blue in this. It looks really, really cool. And great to see that another sponsor is partnering up with Young's Motorsports. And I really do like this paint scheme a lot. And the final paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Matt DiBenedetto's 2021 Throwback scheme. Remember, Matt DiBenedetto did not run a Throwback scheme. So this paint scheme we're going to be seeing in the Southern 500. They are doing a throwback to Elliott Sadler when he drove for Wood Brothers from around 2001, from like 1999, I think, to 2002. Holy crap, this is really, really good. You also have Motorcraft sponsor, which of course sponsored him back in 2001 and 2002. This car is perfectly matching. It sucks we couldn't see this for the throwback race, the Rebel 400 race, but it's great to see though that they are bringing this back, and man, it looks really, really awesome. They did a very good job on it, and I'm definitely looking forward to see this one out on the racetrack at the Southern 500. And now we're going to jump on to all the other major stories in today's episode. Let's go ahead and just jump straight. The first story we're going to talk about is Lift Kits for Less, as they're going to be sponsoring Sheldon Creed for 12 races this year. This is really, really big for Sheldon Creed. Now, Lift for Kits Less has been sponsoring the NBA Motorsports Company, but they are branching out like Bass Pro Shots does in the Cup Series, and they're branching out and sponsoring Sheldon Creed. Now, one thing that Sheldon Creed, as a defending champion, has been struggling for is sponsorship. Yes, he does have money and some funding from his grandfather, but one thing he's been struggling for is funding. But the fact now that he has a lot of his schedule basically made up with Lift for Kits Less is really, really, really cool. It's a big, big company too, by the way. And the fact that 12 races, this is massive deal overall for Sheldon Creed. And this will keep him pretty much funded for the rest of the year, and he's not going to have any trouble funding going forward. This is definitely some really exciting news for sure. And great to see the Lift for Kits for Less is going to be sponsoring for 12 races for the rest of the year. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Nashville Super Speedway. As Daniel and Faden reached out to Nashville Super Speedway, and they said they are not going to be using PJ1 on the track. However, Bob Pockrass responded, and they are going to be using resin on the track. Now, for the record, PJ1 is a type of resin, so technically we're still going to have some sort of traction compound on the racetrack at Nashville Super Speedway. At least it's not PJ1. If you watch the truck practice, it was absolutely terrible to watch, and a lot of cars wrecked. Yes, there's a bump in turn 1 and turn 2, but it's also because of the PJ1 crap that is on the racetrack. Again, I'm not a fan of resin or any sort of trash compound. I think a grip strip definitely will work on the track. But I'm just not overall a fan of this, to be honest with you. I think this is overall going to be a really, really bad idea. I hope the resin maybe isn't as bad as the PJ1 is, but because it is a type of resin the PJ1 is. But yeah, I'm definitely not looking for as much. I'm definitely looking forward to the Nashville Super Speedway race, but I hope the racing does not get affected by the PJ1 crap on the racetrack. I think that would be really, really bad, and I think that it would really, unfortunately, affect the racing going forward. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about Ray Ciccarelli. As according to Joseph Ciregli, he says that Ray Ciccarelli has withdrawn from the Truck Series race at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Instead of having 40 cars in this weekend's Truck Series race attempting to qualify for 36 spots, there are now only 39 spots, 39 trucks, and 3 people will be going home this weekend. It's definitely really unfortunate to see this, even though I'm not a big fan of Ray Ciccarelli after what happened last year. It definitely is really unfortunate that a truck is basically not going to be attempting to qualify because it's one less track we get to see out on the racetrack. But let's be for real, Ray Ciccarelli's trucks were not going to be very, very fast. I was not expecting this truck to qualify in anyways, which I think is one of the reasons why they're not attempting to make it. I don't remember if the 49 car made it last week at COTA. I don't remember exactly. But yeah, definitely very interesting. He's not going to be trying to qualify. I think it really will overall hurt him going forward. And definitely interesting that Ray Ciccarelli is withdrawn from the Truck Series event. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about the Legends cars. Here's something really cool that's been reported. According to Adam Stern, NASCAR, Speedway Motorsports, and NBC Sports have teamed up to start streaming U.S. Legends Car Series races live on the Track Pass OTT network. This is a really, really big deal for Legends cars. For a lot of y'all know a lot of drivers that come from Legend cars. Drivers like Daniel Hemrick, Bubba Walsh, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, a lot of drivers that have come up. And now they're going to show where a lot of drivers have come from. And a lot of drivers that do go into NASCAR start off in the Legends cars. They're getting in front of racing at small, like, quarter-mile tracks, like at Charlotte and Las Vegas and Texas and Atlanta. They have quarter-mile tracks on the mile-and-a-half racetrack, so that's where they basically get their start. This is really, really big deal for the Legends cars. I'm definitely excited for this one for sure. Because we might see some upcoming drivers that are coming through the ranks who maybe one day could be racing in NASCAR one day. You never know, some of these upcoming kids that are learning racing. This is a really big deal for Legends cars. This is going to give a lot more eyes, which I think a lot more eyes should be on the Legends cars because we could see some of these guys, kids 10 years down the road, racing in the Cup Series, and this is overall a very, very big deal for the Legends Car Series, and it's really awesome to see that the Legends Car Series is getting an opportunity to work with NASCAR and NBC and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about Joe Leonard. As it was confirmed today by Bob Pockrass that Joe Leonard is going to be becoming the crew chief for Stuart Friesen from here on out. He is basically going to be swapping places with Tripp Busch. He's going to become the crew chief, and Tripp Busch is going to become the competition director for the Halmer Friesen organization. Tripp Busch has some success so far with Stuart Friesen this year, but I think this makes a lot of sense. Joe Leonard does have some experience crew chief. I believe he crew chief for Matt DiBenedetto. Was it him or no, was it Mag Wheeler? I don't remember exactly. But he crew chief, I think it actually was for Casey Kane in 2017 and 2018. And he's been working with Levi Family Racing in the past. So he does have some crew chief experience. He did have some decent Casey Kane, though there wasn't that much chemistry. But remember the fact that they weren't as good of an organization with Levi Family Racing as they were before their last year. They were still on their way up through the rankings, and they were also with RC. I think it was Hendrick or RCR, if I'm not mistaken, had an alliance with them. I don't exactly remember. But yeah, definitely really interesting that Joe Leonard's getting this opportunity. Hopefully he can help out Stuart Friesen continue to have success. He's going to be in a much better car to crew chief, and definitely will hopefully help Stuart Friesen because he does have quite a bit of experience being a crew chief in NASCAR. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're going to go ahead and talk about North Wilkesboro. As it was reported by Adam Stern yesterday, that Terry Parsons, widow of the late Benny Parsons and backer of the push to reopen North Wilkesboro, she said, "What a great time for us to stay home. Got a hard time going in Nashville. Well, here we are. We want you to come back." There has been a massive push to bring North Wilkesboro back. We know that Marcus Monis is planning on giving potentially more than $1 million. Right now, he's planning on giving $1 million and potentially opening up a camping world in North Wilkesboro. And also, we have a thing from the governor, Roy Cooper, where he's going to be giving $10 million to North Wilkesboro, which Dale Jr. said on Twitter they basically need $80 million, and he said on his podcast they need about $30 million. And his Save the Speedway says they need about $11 to $12 million, so this might be enough. And then eventually there might be other funding that comes in from some other drivers to open this up. This could be a big thing going forward. But yeah, this is definitely some really exciting news. It's really good to hear that, there's a lot of support for it. We've seen a lot of support over the last couple of weeks. I mean, it all started last year where basically we had conversation because they brought it back on iRacing, and really ever since then, when Marcus Smith went on Dale Jr. Download to work, and he basically said that they're not done with North Wilkesboro and they're working on it. So that'll be some really exciting news for sure. Hopefully, I would like to see North Wilkesboro come back. If it does come back, though, it's going to be a few years before it is able to ever come back, to be honest with you. It's going to be quite some time. There's a lot of things that need to be replaced. The grandstands need to be replaced. The media center needs to be replaced. There's flooding issues that definitely going to have to be fixed. They got to cut the grass there and stuff. There's a lot of things that definitely need to be done to get the track repaired. But hopefully in the future, we do get to see North Wilkesboro come back, and I'm definitely in support of bringing more tracks back that have not been around NASCAR for a long time. Also, Rockingham National Fairgrounds, I'm definitely also in support of trying to bring back going forward. That's something I would definitely like to see, and hopefully we will get to see North Wilkesboro come back here in the foreseeable future. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Trey Poole. As Trey Poole is going to be listed as, is going to become the spotter for Chase Elliott from here on out. And here's something very interesting to note about Trey Poole. Trey Poole has already been a spotter for Chase Elliott in the past. He also is Chase Elliott's cousin. So he does have some spotting experience. And he was also a spotter this past weekend here at Circuit Americas, has been helping him on the road course as well. Remember, Eddie DeHaan is not going to be spotting for Chase Elliott for quite some time. He got indefinitely suspended from NASCAR after it was found out that he had been arrested on May 12th and never reported it to NASCAR. He's also indefinitely suspended from there. I want to be honest with you, I expected Trey Poole to be spotted for Chase Elliott, all things considered. Again, he's been spotting for. I know a lot of people want to build Elliott to become a spotter, but I was expecting someone who's had a lot of spotting experience and has worked with Chase Elliott for quite some time, plus he's his cousin. I think it makes a lot of sense. Great to see that Trey Poole is getting this opportunity, and hopefully he will be able to help as well. He's also going to be spotting for Austin Hill this weekend, starting this weekend, and he's also going to be spotting for, actually, Tyler Mon is going to be spotting for Justin Allgaier. Remember, Eddie DeHaan spotted for Austin Hill, and he also spotted for Justin Allgaier. So, yeah, definitely really interesting to see that Trey Poole is going to be the spotter, and I'm wishing Trey Poole the best luck. That was some really awesome news for sure in regards to Trey Poole. And now we're going to go and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we are talking about Josh Berry. As Josh Berry is going to be driving at Mid-Ohio in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, driving the number 31 for Jordan Anderson Racing. A couple things to note. One, one thing to note. One, he is actually not going to be driving the 8 car because Miguel Puto is going to be in the 8 car. So that's one of the reasons why he's not in the car originally. Number two, the 31 car, unlike this past week where they're going to have to qualify in, they actually are going to be locked into this race because Josh Berry, remember, he won earlier this year at Martinsville Speedway. And if you've won a race this year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, you are able to lock yourself in. So the fact that he won, this is really, really good. I haven't really seen Josh Berry race in the road course start. I don't think he's had a road course start, so that's going to see something really, really interesting. I think Josh Berry definitely has a lot of talent to back it up. I think he's going to do a lot of great things with the Jordan Anderson Racing organization. But another thing to note is that this will help their owner's points situation as well. And they're going to have they obviously have ECR, the RCR engines, so they're definitely going to have some speed for sure. I mean, Tyler Reddick just made their first start of the year, and he was able to finish in the top 10 and get quite a few stage points as well. And now they're only 21 points back. Hopefully they're able to qualify this weekend at Charlotte with Tyler Reddick. But they're going to be working with Josh Berry, and Josh Berry, he's a really, really awesome driver. This is definitely a really good opportunity for him. I wish he could run full-time this year, but this funding and the fact that he only has some select number of races is definitely really unfortunate. But it is really awesome to see that Josh Berry is getting an opportunity to race this upcoming weekend in a couple weeks here at Mid-Ohio. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I hope that Josh Berry can have a shot. I think the goal for Josh Berry in the Xfinity Series, I think the goal is to try to get as many points for that team as well. I think the main goal is to get his points. I expect him to stay out during the race to try to get some stage points. I think the goal for him is to get a top 10 and get as many points as they can as possible, and hopefully he can do very, very well. It'd be cool if he won the race, but I don't think he's going to win, but we'll have to see. But really, really awesome opportunity for Josh Berry and really good opportunity to see going forward. Really awesome to see that Josh Berry is getting an opportunity to race for the Jordan Anderson Racing organization. And now we're going to go to jump onto the first of two major stories of today's episode as we're talking about Kurt Busch. Now, a couple of days ago, someone had reported on a fake NASCAR Twitter account that they said that Kurt Busch is going to retire at the end of this year. Now, Kurt Busch the next day, on a day or two ago, he responded saying in a funny thing, it was from, I think it was Jump Street or Wolf of Wall Street, I think it was. He basically said, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Kurt Busch might have, in that tweet, might have just confirmed that he is probably going to be returning to Chip Ganassi Racing in 2022. Now, originally, I've been saying that he was probably going to be retiring at the end of 2021 because he's been around for a long time. Plus, Kurt Busch said he originally wanted to run the next-gen car, but that was originally in 2021. But he's also said he does want to race the next-gen car in 2022. And I think Kurt Busch is still very competitive. I know that this year hasn't gone very well for him. I mean, he's still outside of the playoffs. I think he's like 50 or 60 points outside of the playoff cutoff right now. And it's been one of his worst years so far in quite some, probably the worst year he's had in many, many years. But the first years he's been with Chip Ganassi Racing, he won a race in 2019 in Kentucky. He also believed he made it to the round of 8 in 2020 with a win at Las Vegas. And he's a champion. He won in 2004. And is a guy that still, I think, can kick ass. He's a guy that knows how to drive a race car. He's done very, very well throughout his career so far. And I would really, really suck if he is to retire. I hope he does get an opportunity to come back. I mean, I really would like to see it. I mean, if not, it is what it is. It is the end of his career at the end of the year. It's going to be really, really unfortunate. But I really do think that Kurt Busch has a very good shot of come back. I asked a lot of people, and they're saying there's a really good chance that he could be coming back next year. And I really hope he does because Kurt Busch still is doing really, really well. And, you know, yes, he's in his he's like 42 or 43 years old. He's one of the oldest drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series right now. But, I mean, he still can carry it. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to get around the racetrack. He knows how to race. And I think that Kurt Busch is going to do a lot of great things. And I think that he still could win races. And I think he still has a shot of winning a race if the Chip Ganassi Racing equipment helps him. I know the Chip Ganassi race equipment is not the fastest stuff. I mean, it's proving this year, even though last year and the last couple of years, he's done really, really well. I mean, I hope Kurt Busch does come back next year. I really, really hope he does because I think he's going to can still do a lot of great things. And hopefully Kurt Busch can get back. Hopefully make the playoffs here. I think that's one thing that's going to be really interesting. I think that one of the key things will be is if Kurt Busch does make the playoffs this year. If he's able to make up all the points and make it, I think that will help secure him to be able to make the races going forward here. But Kurt Busch might be returning to Chip Ganassi Racing next year. We're going to have to watch as the silly season goes on. And now we're going to go ahead and jump onto the final major story of today's episode as we are talking about Brad Keselowski once again. It was reported, let's go to the backstory. It was reported about a week ago that Brad Keselowski apparently is looking to maybe sign a deal, has been offered a deal to work with Roush Fenway Racing, go over to Roush Fenway Racing, drive the 6 car, and open up and become a co-owner of Roush Fenway Racing for a team called Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. A couple indicators state that I believe his general manager from BKR is over there right now, and he's also was apparently supposed to test the next-gen car a couple weeks ago when they announced that they have it in Texas, but they took him out for Ryan Blaney. And there's a lot of reasons with that as well. He's also had tension in the past with Joey Logano, so there's a lot of speculation right there. We may have some more information on that in regards to that, and it came out from Roger Penske in the media center today in Indianapolis. He said, we really haven't made a decision at this point. We've got a contract with Brad through the end of the year, and we will make the decision when the season is over. I believe it has been 100% confirmed that Brad Keselowski is going to go to Roush Fenway Racing. So the big question is that one, will Brad be able to be successful at Roush Fenway Racing right away? One thing I'm going to say is that I think Brad Keselowski is going to do better than what Ryan Newman is doing in that 6 car right now. I think he's going to be more and more competitive. That being said, I do not think Brad Keselowski is going to be a championship contender right away at Roush Fenway Racing. I think he's going to be a solid contender at Roush Fenway Racing. I think he's going to get pretty good performances. I think he'll definitely get quite a few top tens. I think he'll be a little more successful than what Chris Buescher is doing right now. That's not saying Chris Buescher's not bad. He's been really, really good this year. But I'm expecting Brad to maybe get one win next year and have some top 5s, some top 10s. But he is not going to be a championship contender with Roush Fenway Racing. It's going to take some time. Over time, he definitely could get better because he's probably going to be with the team for a very long time. And you also have to remember, Brad Keselowski is 36 or 37 years old. So he's a lot older. So this is another business venture for Brad Keselowski, is the fact that Brad Keselowski is a lot older. And we've seen some drivers starting to go into ownership side of things when they get around their 30s and 40s. Remember, Tony Stewart was also around that age when he went over to work with Gene Haas and was pretty successful over there. I know a lot of people say that there's a chance he could be very, very successful over Roush Fenway Racing, which would be really, really cool. But I'm not sure right away he's going to be successful as Tony Stewart was. That being said, though, Roush Fenway Racing this year has definitely taken a lot of steps. We've seen Roush Fenway Racing going forward. Chris Buescher has been much more successful. Both drivers, I believe, are in the top 20 points right now. And Chris Buescher has been absolutely consistent throughout the year so far. They've also had some big moves made this year. LeBron James has become an owner of the Fenway Sports Group. I don't know how much association he has with Roush in general, the Roush Fenway Group in general, but he does have a association with the Fenway Group. And Jimmy Fenning went back to the engineering side, which I think is another reason why Roush Fenway Racing has definitely improved this year so far. But another big question going forward is that who's going to drive the 2 car now? There's 2 drivers that are really only up for the running. It's going to be drivers that are currently in the Penske stable. You have Austin Cindric, who currently races the 22 car, and you have Matt DiBenedetto, who's currently racing the number 21 car for Wood Brothers at the moment. Matt DiBenedetto has had some decent success so far at the Wood Brothers organization, though I will say this, I don't think he's gotten the best he could have done so far. I mean, yes, he's had some good runs this year. He's definitely been a much more contender at this car, definitely, than he's been with the Levi Family Racing organization. That being said, he definitely should be performing a little bit better. I know the Wood Brothers is not as good, even though they are a Penske-based team. They're not as good as a regular Penske team organization. But he's had decent success. He's definitely been better, but I wish he was doing a little bit better, to be honest with you. Austin Cindric is a defending champion in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2020. And he's already won 3 races here in the NASCAR Xfinity Series at the season opener at Daytona. He won Phoenix, and he also won at Dover this year, and he's looking to go back-to-back in championships. Now I'm going to tell you who I think is going to go over to Penske in the number 2 car next year. I think it's going to be Austin Cindric. There's a few reasons why I think Matty D, I think, is going to return to the 21 next year. But here's a few reasons why I think that Austin Cindric is going to end up driving the number 2 next year. Number 1, Austin Cindric is a defending champ for Team Penske in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He's already won a championship. He's also been pretty decent in the Cup starts he's had so far this year. But the other big reason is his dad, Tim Cindric, is the competition director and president at Team Penske. And he has been running the IndyCar programs over there. And Tim Cindric has been around for a very long time. So I think that's another reason why I think that Austin Cindric is going to end up driving in the number 2 car next year. I think we for sure know that Brad's going to go to the 6, and I think that Austin Cindric is going to go to the 2, and I believe that Matt DiBenedetto will remain in the 21. But I do think that over time, Wood Brothers will get better. I think Matt DiBenedetto is a very solid driver, but I don't think he's the perfect. I originally thought there was a chance that Matty D could end up in the 2 because he does have a lot of Cup experience, and it was originally announced he was going to go that it was going to originally announce that Austin Cindric was going to go to the 21. But I think there's going to be some changes for the 2022 season, and I think 100% that we will see Austin Cindric go there. And I think Matt DiBenedetto's options can be picked up, and I think he's going to be signed at least for another 2 years. Because who do they have right now, Team Penske, after Austin Cindric? Sure, you get someone to go down to the 22 and maybe race their Xfinity Series and develop them. But to be perfectly honest with you, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Austin Cindric is going to go to the 2. Matt DiBenedetto goes to 21. And I think Brad Keselowski is going to stay at that 6 car next year. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, see me notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my page as well. Links in the description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on Roger Penske's comments on Brad Keselowski, and how successful do you think Brad will be at Roush Fenway Racing next year? And do you believe that Kurt Busch will return to Chip Ganassi Racing in the 2022 season? Let me know in the comments below. Anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.